sunk beyond the hills. Guess that must be street over there. It's an amazing view of Glastonbury Tor with the River Brue in front of it. That's a road running down there, the Drover Road. I'm pretty sure nobody can see me. As the sun has set and you're getting the afterglow effect, I'm looking directly at Glastonbury Tor, just sticking its head above the River Brue's embankment. Something I wanted to share with you was the lockdown eased on March the 29th, and I felt from then onwards it was acceptable if I went cycling a little bit further from Bath. I was still very cautious, and I still am now, masking up when I go past people, masks in shops definitely, wiping my hands whenever I touch anything. I'm still being very cautious. I've had the first jab. The second jab should be within the next couple of weeks. May the 20th I think is the latest. One of the things I noticed as lockdown eased was I was riding down through Warminster, I think, heading down the Wiley Valley, and I just passed a school run, and I always really slowed down because obviously you need to pay a lot of attention and be responsible, and I just remember feeling this joy about children going back to school, and just like the first sign of normality after lockdown. And then recently I started seeing people in pub gardens when the second easing occurred. I'm not sure of the date, and I just remember sort of thinking that looks so good. And on one of my old axes, I was just riding past this pub with about 15 miles to go, saw a guy come out with a pint of lager, lovely sunny afternoon, about 5-6 o'clock, and I just slammed my brakes on, walked back and got one myself. We were sat chatting from about 10 feet away, and it was just marvellous, just a pint in a pub. It just tasted and felt so good, and just talking to someone in a beer garden. Again, keeping distance, and there was a very strict regime for ordering. And then on Sunday I went off and did a 200-kilometre DIY old axe down to Dorchester and back. And I kept passing all these campsites and seeing people there, you know, campsites being used again. And again, it just filled me with this amazing sense of joy. And it just made me realise all those things we take for granted pass so often without even giving it a second thought. They're just so wonderful to sort of see them happening again. I know it's a cliche, but it's like that Joni Mitchell song, isn't it? You don't know what you got till it's gone. And it definitely felt like that. It was wonderful seeing just normality again. Wow, I didn't get the camera out in time. This big black bird, it's like something out of Lord of the Rings, just took off. It was a heron, but because it's in the silhouette, it just looked black and menacing. The second meal was very nice. It was Mexican tuna, I think, with pasta. Instantly, it tasted quite different. The sauce tasted very salty, and then as you digested it, you got an aftertaste. It was like quite peppery, actually, so a mix of salt and pepper, so sweet and sour and salt and pepper. Both meals complemented each other. I feel very full now. I'm on my second Guinness, and I'm just sat here just loving the moment, actually, just really savouring this. It's absolutely wonderful. Only slight negative is my hands are a bit cold. I wish I'd brought some gloves, actually. Looking across to the sunset, amazing view of Glastonbury Tor and the River Brue. Then you may just make out the red lights going vertically on the Mendip transmitter above Wells. There's quite a lot of military flights going over. I guess we're quite close to Yeovilton. There's also this big black bird. I think it's a heron flying, but it just looks pitch black. It looks like something like the Nazgul out of Lord of the Rings. It's about 10 PM now, and as you can see behind me, there's still that amazing sunset. There's a lovely band of afterglow. I'm going to give it about half an hour, I think, and then hit the haze. So I'll say good night. I'll talk to you in the morning. Hello, good morning. It's about 8:30 now. I've been up about an hour. I've just had a good wash. I've boiled some water for my first coffee, and I'm just sat having my breakfast, black coffee and cereal with fruit juice. It's a lovely morning. The sun's high and it's got a lot of punch behind it, unlike last night when there was that cold wind. So I'm just going to really enjoy this breakfast in the early morning sunshine. That's looking down on the tent, drying in the sun. This is on this raised riverbank over this bend in the River Brue, looking up at Glastonbury Tor. May just see the start of the travellers' settlements along there. Not really settlements, it's just evenly spaced caravans, camper vans. You can see them everywhere, even over there, there's some as well. As I said, I used to ride by those on my old axes thinking, wow, that must be amazing to camp here. And it made me want to come down. I bivvied last time. Because I didn't do any fancy cooking last night, just boiled in the bag, I got tons of water so I could have plenty of coffees and just had a really good wash. A little bit about the Vango Banshee. This is my third outing. At first it felt very counterintuitive having what looks like a tunnel tent but having side entrances. I've got used to that now. As I said last night, it looked as it blended into this embankment being almost grassy green colour. So for that, that's a definite positive. You can use the door either side. As I said, I think it's designed for two people, so they both get in each side. I use the porchway for storage on that side. What I'll probably do this morning is actually open this side and do my packing from here. It makes sense to do packing in the sun, not on the damp grass. Positives, it's really good for getting changed in there because the height is exactly where you need it. It doesn't feel like you're crunched up getting changed, dressed and undressed. The other thing is, once you've attached the inner, in fact it came with the inner attached, you never have to separate them. You just take it down and you scrunch it into a stuff bag, and then the poles go in my FE active chair canvas bag. So it just packs up so much smaller. The actual carrying bag doubles up as a conventional roll-up bag. It's probably best to store it that way. But for actual on-the-road camping, it converts into a stuff sack, so the pack size is so much smaller, gets in the panniers easy. The one criticism I've heard about it is, I was aware of this before I bought it, the porch space isn't that great, and it's not, but then I don't do any cooking in the porch anyway. I always consider that unsafe, so that's not an issue for me. The one issue I have had, and it may just be a personal thing, when you first take it out the bag, it's just a fly sheet and it's just like a mess of creases and ropes everywhere and buckles and straps. This long arm, one of the poles, goes into an eyelet there, but can you see there's also an eyelet there, and it's easy to put it in that one and the corresponding one on the other side, and then you couldn't attach them both. When I first tried putting it up at home, I thought, blimey, I'm going to snap the pole. And I gave it a second thought, and then I realised there was a second hole. So I think I would say to anyone who buys this the first time you put it up, just be very aware of that. You could actually damage the pole by trying to bend it into the two eyelets, which are not designed for the pole. That's a slight design issue, in my opinion. I'm aware of it now, so every time I put it up, I make sure I do definitely put it in the right eyelet. That's the long pole. In fact, there's a long pole and a short pole, and they're both colour coded. The poles are coloured and the tunnels are coloured. So the front one, the one with the issue, is blue, and the rear one, the smaller one, is red. What I tend to do now is I always put the red one in first, and at least then the tent has started to take shape and you can see, right, that's where the tunnel and the correct eyelet is. Other people who use this tent may sort of say, that's rubbish, we don't have that problem at all. So it is just a personal opinion. I couldn't camp up on this riverbank last night as I'd have really liked to because of that wind. It was just too bitter and penetrating. But what I can do is chill out with a coffee on my chair with my table next to me this morning and just stare up at Glastonbury Tor and contemplate. "10:30, another late start. I mean, why rush in such a lovely place? Everything's now out the tent, it's ready to drop. You can probably see I've used the other door this morning. It just made sense. That's the door where the sun's coming in. Everything's in piles on the ground sheet and the sleep mat, ready to pack. 11 AM, all packed up. I've even scuffed the grass down where I was. Leave no trace. The only thing I've left is my natural waste, and that's buried. That's a footpath along there until you get to a wooden bridge over a rain. So as it's a footpath, I'm just going to push the bike along there. I'll talk to you about my plans for this morning at the bridge. I'm now back at the wooden bridge across this little reen, just like a little drainage channel. Reens or rhines, depending on where you come from in the country, different pronunciation. That's the banks of the Brue along there. You can see this is a public footpath, so as far as I'm concerned, I've got right of access. I just went round that slight bend to hide me from the road coming in this direction, and I think I probably blended into a silhouette that side. So I've just had to strip my bike to get across here. Got my rubbish bag ready to dump at the first opportunity. That's the way I came in. This is Kennard Moor Drove. Fantastic. Avoiding that busy A361. That climbs up to that line of houses along there at the foot of Glastonbury Tor. I'm going to go in this way, and just as this road starts climbing up to join that road, you actually cut through a housing estate. It's amazing. You just go from this magic feel of the sunset levels, and just round the corner are all the travellers, so that gives it a little bit more romance, I think so, an atmosphere. And then you just cut through a little gate onto a housing estate, and that brings you right into Glastonbury. I'll show you when I get there. This is the final approach to Glastonbury, and you get these fantastic views of the Tor as you come round a right angle bend and you approach it head on. I actually really like passing the travellers' settlements. There must have been a couple of dozen vans there. And there's one tent in the field. Just going to go to that T-junction, turn left. The road goes along and then it would do a sharp right up to the A361. But as I said, we cut through a housing estate. I'll show you a nice little cut through. This is the way I've come in. And this road then bends sharp right, climbs up to that A361. But you can even cut that climb out. Go through this gate here, leads you through a housing estate, and then I'll cut through a footpath on the final approach to Glastonbury High Street. And here it is, you just leave the housing estate through this little footpath, then there's just a very slight rise up the main road. You'll see the lorry going by there, sharp right hand turn, it's down into Glastonbury. My little cut through emerged just round the corner from where that car's coming from. You come down there, busy road, this is the A361, going to go into Glastonbury High Street, but hey, look at this, one of the two amazing wall murals I'll show you. Just off Glastonbury High Street, down Benedict Street, you may hear some buskers up there. Glastonbury definitely feels like it's stuck in the 1960s. Second of the murals. And the final point of interest is we'll just have a wander up there into Glastonbury car park. And hey presto, in the car park you've got the canopy from the old Somerset and Dorset Railway station, long gone. It's nice to see they've utilised it and saved such a quite nice structure actually. I'm now going to cut through the high street, leave Glastonbury, head down to the main A39 and then the final leg home. There's a couple of places there I really want to share with you. I'm leaving Glastonbury on the busy A39, Glastonbury to Wradrobe, right at the boundary sign for Glastonbury. Right by the boundary sign for Glastonbury, on the opposite side of the road, is the site of the old turnpike 1750. There's a great network of lanes that go that way. What I'm doing is taking this cycle path along the really busy road. In a couple of 100 yards, I'm going to turn right. And then there's a really long straight stretch. It's probably a mile, mile and a half. Here's my turning, signposted down to Launchley. And this road is pancake flat and ruler straight for miles. It feels like miles. Going along there, what would have been that headwind last night would have been awful. Coming this way though, you see the flow of traffic going along from the A39 and you just never feel like you're getting any closer. This is quite amazing riding across here. I'm at the end of that very long straight road. Past several cyclists, a walker, a couple of cars came along. Now I'm just going to head round here, skirt around that hill, and what I'm doing in effect is crossing over it. Then I'll drop down to the Sheppey Valley at Dinder and I'll talk to you there. It's a really nice village. It's just a couple of miles along from Croscombe and it's going to do pretty much the same as I did last night but in reverse. I'm going to drop down into it, then there's a long climb out of it to Masbury Summit and then I'll replicate my route back to Bath. I've left the real flat levels around the edge of Wells. I'm bypassing the city altogether around this hill here, and this is a nice little spot, nice little waterfall. just as I'm leaving the small hamlet of North Wootton. I'm heading around there, and the road starts climbing up towards Pilton. As I get halfway up, I'll take a left-hand turn and then drop down and cross the River Sheppey, and then through Dinder. So this is the lovely village of Dinder in the Sheppey Valley. The main road is literally just behind there. You can hear it, but you can't see it. So I've just come round that hill, over it, and dropped down, crossed it, and I'm coming through the village here. I'm going to go along there a couple of 100 yards, and then there's a left-hand turn which takes you all the way up to Masbury Summit. So this is where I'm going to leave you for this little adventure. Go along there, and then head straight up over the Mendips. Then it's a fairly fast drop down through Midsummer Norton to Midsummer Norton Station, get on the Five Arches Greenway into Radstock, then take the Collier's Way cycle path along to Midford, then it's 2 tunnels along to literally a couple of 100 yards from my house. Hope you've enjoyed this. It's been a fantastic night's camping as usual. Thanks very much for watching. Till next time.